Anifa sat comfortably on her stool, basking in the morning sun as she barked orders at her two baby girls. Nalia and Kesa, no older than 10, were hard at work braiding their mother's hair. Anifa, as always, was dressed in her bright, colorful attire, an elaborate mix of yellows, reds, and blues that shimmered in the light. As the girls' fingers worked tirelessly, Anifa tapped her foot impatiently. "Tighten the braid, Nalia. You think I like it loose?" Her voice cut through the air, sharp and cold. Kesa, the younger one, fumbled with a cornrow, and before she could fix it, Anifa swatted her hand away, frustration etched on her face. "Useless child," she spat. "Do you want me to walk around looking like a fool?" Once her hair was done to her satisfaction, she dismissed them with a flick of her hand. "Now get to the fields. The crops won't plant themselves," she muttered, turning her attention to the shawl she was knitting. Her girls, used to the constant barrage of demands, hurried off, their little legs carrying them to the fields to plant crops. When they returned, dusty and tired, Anifa's sharp eyes immediately caught the slight crookedness in the rows they had sown. "The rows aren't straight," she bellowed, reaching for the cane that lay beside her stool. With no hesitation, she lashed at their legs, ignoring their cries of pain. "Do it right next time, or you'll feel this even more," she threatened. As the days went on, Anifa's daughters toiled endlessly, fetching water, cooking meals, gathering firewood, and tending to the crops. Anifa, meanwhile, did nothing but talk and wander around the village in her vibrant robes. She strutted through the village square, her head held high, admired for her beauty but whispered about for her laziness. Her husband, Musa, was a humble fisherman. Every day, he cast his nets into the river under the blazing sun, returning home with his catch and his tired body. But his hard work was never enough for Anifa. "Is this all you caught?" she would ask, wrinkling her nose at the meager fish he brought. "You expect me to cook this miserable thing?" She'd grumble without even looking at him. Musa said nothing, his eyes heavy with weariness. He watched his daughters work harder than any child should, their little hands raw from labor, and his heart grew heavier with each passing day. The villagers saw it too, whispering behind his back about Anifa's cruelty, but Musa remained silent. One evening, after a long day, Musa sat with his daughters outside their small hut. The stars glittered above them as the girls rested their heads on his lap, exhausted from their endless tasks. Musa looked at their innocent faces and sighed deeply. It was time to act. The next morning, when Anifa called for Nalia and Kesa to braid her hair, no one answered. Irritated, she shouted louder, but the hut remained silent. Fuming, she stormed outside, only to find Musa and the girls standing at the edge of the village, bags packed. "Where are you going?" she demanded, her voice dripping with anger. Musa's gaze was calm but firm as he looked at her. "We're leaving, Anifa. I won't allow you to treat us like servants anymore. The girls deserve to be children, to laugh, to play. And I deserve to be respected, not scorned." Anifa's eyes widened in disbelief. And who will braid my hair? Who will cook? Who will fetch water? You will, Musa replied simply. You'll do it yourself, or you'll go without. Before she could respond, Musa turned and walked away with their daughters, heading toward the riverbank where his fishing boat awaited. Anifa stood there, stunned and alone. For the first time, there was no one to answer her every command. At first, she believed they would come back, perhaps in a day or two. But as the days turned into weeks, Anifa was forced to face the harsh reality. She had no idea how to plant crops, and when she tried, her fingers bled from the effort. Her once beautiful hair became a tangled mess, neglected without the skilled hands of her daughters. The food she cooked was inedible, and her vibrant dresses, once admired, became stained with the dirt of the fields and the sweat of her own labor. The villagers watched from a distance, their sympathy mingled with the satisfaction of seeing Anifa finally understand the weight of the work she had so long ignored. Some offered her help, but it came with a lesson: she had to learn to work for herself. Over time, something began to change in Anifa. The vibrant colors of her dresses no longer mattered as much as they once had. Her hands, once soft and pampered, grew calloused and strong. She worked in the fields from dawn till dusk, learning how to care for her crops, how to fetch water, how to light a fire. Slowly, the pride she once carried with her began to fade, replaced by a deep sense of humility. One day, many months later, Musa and the girls returned to the village. They stood at the edge of the fields, watching as Anifa, barefoot and weary, tended to the crops she had once left for others to manage. She looked up and saw them, her heart leaping with a mixture of shame and joy. With tears in her eyes, she ran to them. "I have missed you all so much. I understand now. I took everything for granted," she confessed, her voice trembling. Musa smiled gently and embraced her. "We missed you too, Anifa. But more importantly, you've finally learned what it means to be part of a family." From that day on, Anifa was different. She worked alongside her daughters, planting, cooking, cleaning, and caring. She no longer used her cane or raised her voice in anger. The bright colors of her dresses still danced in the wind, but now they were a symbol of a woman who had learned that true strength and beauty come not from demanding, but from giving, loving, and working together as a family.